There it is.
And here we are. Happy Friday fun day once again, Mr. Coffman. How are you on this fantastic Friday?
It's did you ask me? I interrupted you. So did you ask me how my Friday was going?
Yeah, Friday fun day. How's it going
Yeah,
for you?
it's been a fun day. They so I'm into CrossFit. So but that CrossFit gym, our CrossFit gym just got a new sauna. So I'm loving that. It's one of those infrared saunas. It's so glorious, glorious. And then after that I go to the other gym. I'm gym hopping now, and I do red light at the other gym. So I'm feeling rejuvenated. I feel good. It's awesome.
That's good. You do seem to have a little bit more of a bounce in your step lately. So
Hey,
you got you put some distance between you and the ongoing infections from last year. So that
oh,
seems to
dude,
be
I'm still reeling a little bit from that. Those antibiotics that I took have really taken a toll on me. But I'm probably not quite to the point I was at with the athletic side of CrossFit. Um, I'm probably not to that point yet that I was at prior to getting having all this craziness going. But I'm getting there, slow and steady. I'm getting there, and I'm definitely feeling a whole lot better. So, um, yeah, I just go back to something that my wife told me, and she's big into yoga, but she always would say you need to get out of your head and into your body, and it's true because if you get into your body, it just does it. You just feel your head seems to work a whole lot better.
I hear you. I
Yeah.
hear you.
What about you, man?
Well, it's going. I just do not know where the weeks go. Seems like we were just doing doing Friday Fun Day creative real estate investing mastery podcast yesterday, and it's been another whole week. I don't know what's going on with that, but the time sure is slipping by without a doubt. So what is on the agenda? What is our topic for today's podcast, Mr. Kaufman?
Today we are going to discuss. We're going to kind of commingle a couple of different topics, but the first one we want to talk about are these entry fees. I know they're your favorite. It's your favorite thing to see, and I don't like that term. Number one, um, I don't know. Something about it just rubs me the wrong way.
Yes, indeed.
Um, maybe it's maybe it's because of I don't know. I can't explain it. I just don't like it. There's got to be a better word for it. But we're going to talk about entry fees, and then we're going to talk about um, potential solutions to. I mean, because we see crazy entry fees. You're browsing the Facebook groups or
Yeah,
anything like that. I mean, it's
90,000, 100,000. Yep.
totally bananas. And sometimes we deal with houses that are only $90,000. In
Yep.
our neck of the woods. So to see that is a little bit outrageous. And so we're going to talk about what those are, what's generally included in entry fees, and then we're going to talk about ways to deal with entry fees, creative ways, because we love the creative side of things.
Yep.
So there you go. That's what we're talking about.
All right. Well, let's hop right in. Let's hop right into it then. So let's take a step back and remember we're continuing kind of our trend lately, focusing more on the sub two stuff. So when we talk about entry fees, we're talking about sub two deals typically.
Right.
In other words, the entry fee is maybe you don't like the term, so we can just say it's your fee to play, right? It's
Pay to play.
your acquisition costs and all that. So you mentioned the entry fee, and typically you see the entry fees. If a wholesaler, I say wholesaler, typically I think that's where all this generate from, were these
Yeah.
wholesalers that got these subject to deals. And if we're being honest, most of them don't have any idea how to actually deal with sub two deals. They just thought, okay, well, I'm just going to package this up and we'll call them entry fees. Like, yeah, I'd like to know who came up with that term entry fee
Yeah.
exactly. So along those lines, so let's just outline the entry fee. What's typically included? what did you expect in an entry fee, and what's a reasonable entry fee? Maybe as we go through long, maybe define it first, I guess.
Right. Well, an entry fee is going to be nothing more than all of the all of the fees associated with getting that deal, and we are sticking with the sub two theme on this of getting that deal closed. What's your out of pocket cash requirement at closing? That's
Bring to the table, right? You cash to the table. What is it, right?
um, and there are some that are certainly uh, non-negotiable, and then there are some that are definitely negotiable, preferably negotiable. So let's talk about the ones that are non-negotiable first. And these are going to be your things like first off, right off the bat, if you're buying something subject to many times, many more times than not, you're going to have a mortgage that is probably in arrears. There's going to be a balance due on that mortgage to bring that mortgage current, and that is generally not something that you can negotiate. Um, Now, I have seen, and I have actually, um, well, I'm not gonna put myself out there like that, but I have seen where people do. Um, they will have their seller do a loan modification in order to kind of doesn't make those arrears disappear. The loan modification is going to put that. It's going to take what they owe and it's going to put that those arrears on the end of the loan. Generally speaking, there's other different programs where they can handle that, um, but those are going to have to be paid at some point. Let's just say that maybe not necessarily up front. More times than not, it is an upfront uh, it is an upfront fee. You're just going to have, and I don't want to say it's a fee, it's an upfront payment to
Yeah,
bring the mortgage current.
yeah. And
Um,
just so you know, sorry not to interrupt you, but your sound is coming kind of in and out a little bit.
really?
Yeah,
Okay. I'm gonna have to. I think I'm gonna have to get a new microphone. I think this thing is that better.
that is better. Yes.
As I tend to bob my head back and forth. So we have mortgage arrears. Uh, then we have all of any other liens that might be attached to that property. Um, am I missing anything on the non-negotiables? By the way,
Yeah, non-negotiable. Yeah, you're right. Whatever to make the loan current, right? The arrears to make the loan current, and then other liens. Like, yeah, and
well,
we've talked about this before, but when we talk about other liens, they could be utility liens. They could be HOA liens. They could be all kinds of different entities that have something against the property that you need to be aware of. So,
well, that's a good one. HOA. HOA is generally non-negotiable either. Although I have heard of um, HOA liens being actually being negotiated or settled. I'll put it that way. Um, but as far as non-negotiables, I think really all that they're that's really all that you can put into that category are those arrears. The lender's gonna want that loan brought current, um, because even other liens, obviously, and this is why we don't mind seeing liens on properties that we're gonna buy, because a lot of those liens can actually be negotiated, um, up to and including, you've got tax liens. You have the big one in my book is Medicare liens are almost, I don't want to say always, but in many circumstances, in many cases, you can negotiate Medicare liens down, and I have personal experience in that, and it's unfortunately in my experience, the we didn't find out that there was Medicare lien on this thing until we were ready to sell this property, in the one that I'm thinking of. And so imagine our surprise when, we get in, we this was a rehab that we did. We get in, we do this rehab, we sink all this money into this property, and then we go to sell it and find out that there's a little something called a look back period, um, and It's a Medicare mandated rule. It's a Medicare rule that they have the option of looking back in any particular situation where uh, Medicare benefits were drawn upon, and of course, Medicare is going to look at all of your assets, um, and so kind of make a long story short, we found out that they did this look back, and they found that our seller had sold this property just prior to collecting Medicare benefits, and so they placed a lien on the property for to the tune of $80,000, and that was a big deal, very very big deal. We actually negotiated that lien down to $8,000, and so while that still hurt, we definitely, I mean, we still made money on the deal at that rate, but it was still really really painful. But the $80,000, we would have just had to turn that property into a rental or something. I mean, there's just no way we could come out of pocket. And after going through the rehab and all of the rigmarole that the municipality put us through, there was just no way we were going to put in another $80,000. So, okay, so back to the other negotiables. Um, so we've got liens. Some utilities can be negotiated if there are back payments due to a utility. Those can be negotiated for sure.
For sure. Yep.
Then you have your why am I spacing on this?
You you have your wholesale fee.
Well, there's that, but there's also mechanics liens.
Oh, other liens. Yes, yes. Sorry, mechanics liens. Yes.
Mechanics liens. Mechanics liens can be negotiated, although there's some pretty hardcore guys out there that they just won't budge one bit. But and that's their right. That's totally their right to do it. I do want to caution folks that if you take a property subject to any existing liens, now you're going to take it. One of those liens is going to be the mortgage, obviously. But if you take property subject to any other existing liens, such as utility liens or mechanics liens, if those individuals or those companies find out that you've sold the property, they do have the option to foreclose on your property.
Yeah.
So it's a good idea to ensure that if you're going to take a property subject to any existing liens other than the mortgage, it's a good idea to reach out to those folks and say, "Hey, I'm thinking about buying this property. I'd like to, I would love to close on it. I'd love to be able to get you paid, but if I pay you X amount, there's a chance that this deal won't go through, and there's also a chance that you won't be paid." So just keep that in mind. That's a good rule of thumb. Don't ignore it before you close on it. Get ahead of it and reach out to those folks and see what you can do. I think I said it in maybe the last podcast or the one before that. Those guys, those companies, a lot of them are kind of smaller mom and pops, and we can actually use liens as leverage in both the purchase price of the property and in negotiating those liens. So this is why we shouldn't be necessarily afraid of liens being on a property, but and there's no guarantees. There are no guarantees that you're going to be able to negotiate those, but it's certainly worth a shot because it could be a deal killer for sure. What else we have on negotiables? You just mentioned
negotiables, wholesale fee.
Yes.
So typically you see this entry fee stuff coming from wholesalers on subject to deals. So the wholesale fee, and I think they like the entry fee because they just give you a flat number. Mm-hmm. I'll just make it up. It's $30,000 to get in, and you don't have any damn idea what you have to pull teeth with them. Say, okay, well, what exactly is composed of the $30,000? Is it arrears? Is it like some people are pretty good about breaking it down? Most people are not. Like they don't want you to know they're trying to make $15,000 on the wholesale fee or 20 or 25 or what, some ridiculous number on the wholesale fee. Sometimes there's a real estate agent involved too, so there's a commission there too. That's part of that entry fee. So be aware of that. All that stuff is 100% negotiable.
Right.
All those fees. Uh, the closing costs. So I've seen this both ways now. It should be part of the entry fee. The entry fee, by definition, should be the amount of money you need to bring to their proposed amount of money that you need to bring to the closing table. So that should include closing costs, but many times I've seen it does not.
Yep.
And then it says plus closing costs. So just be aware of that. Closing costs too, by the way, are somewhat negotiable.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can ask the title company to reduce their fees and even waive some fees. We do it all the time. And especially if you have a good relationship and you close a lot of deals with some particular title companies, they're going to give you their lowest and best rate to begin with. You know, that $150 closing fee I've seen a few times from,
Yeah.
some of our, I look at it and I'm just like, okay, well, I'm not going to ask about it. I'll just pay that. You know,
And especially if you're doing like let's say you're wholesaling a deal, if you're doing a back-to-back closing, there's no reason that you should be paying. From my point of view, I think yours as well, but there's no reason you should be paying two sets of closing costs. If you're doing,
right, exactly.
If you're doing a B2B closing, you're going to have one set of closing documents, and then you're going to have another set of closing documents. And if you have a really good relationship with your title company or your closing attorney, that is definitely something that's negotiable.
Yeah.
Hey, Mr. or Mrs. Attorney, I'm doing two closings back to back here. Is any chance that we can that I can only pay for one, or it's a understand that they're only doing one title search. That's it.
Yeah.
So, maybe their paperwork is a little more entailed with a back-to-back closing, but I'm not sure that it warrants the entire amount.
Maybe two document fees, but not two different sets of closing fees and all that stuff too. Yeah.
Right.
So that's definitely negotiable. And then the entry fee should also include walking away money to the seller.
Yep.
Okay, so whatever that is, whatever that number is, so maybe out of a $30,000 entry fee, 5,000 is walking away money. So that's negotiable too.
Yes.
Right? It's all negotiable. All those fees are negotiable. Like you mentioned, really the only thing that's pretty true 90+% of the time is you can't really negotiate the arrears on the loan. Like they want the loan current, and here's the number to make it current. You might be able to modify it and toss it on the back, right? I mean, you could potentially do that, but they're going to want the loan to be made current, and especially if it's a 3% interest rate. Like I'm not opposed to spending $15,000 to make the loan current to get a 3% interest rate for the next 25 years. I mean, it's just a matter of how you look at it, I guess. So,
well, let's talk about that walk-in money a little bit, because sometimes. And this is where we get into the hybrid approach.
Yes.
Subject to.
Yep.
Sometimes that walk-in money, and this is kind of subjective, because to put it in I guess nicer terms, a lot of these situations with these sellers are, hey, if you don't pay these arrears. They may have a ton of equity in their property, but if they don't pay those arrears, all that equity is going to be wiped out. And so sometimes what you'll see is a seller will say, "Hey, I've got, $50,000 in equity in this thing. I'm going to want my equity out of the property," and that would be their, that would replace, their walk-in money.
Yep.
And so that is something that is definitely negotiable. And there are many really creative ways. One primarily that we're going to focus on today, but there's a lot of creative ways that you can manage that. You can manage that through, seller carryback, a partial carryback. You can manage it through equity partnership. There's just a ton of different ways to deal with it. But the one we're going to focus on for this podcast is this kind of hybrid seller carryback for uh, if they don't want to negotiate that down for a cash consideration. Um, Now we can talk about, okay, well, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, how about this? How about I give you X amount of dollars to get you set up in your next place, and then the remainder of the equity that you're asking for, why not take a note? Why not carry back a note secured by the property for those funds? And I'll tell you, that's a the deal still has to make sense. Obviously,
Yep.
the deal still has to be able to pay for itself for the long term. But that is something more times than not when we run into this situation where they have a lot of equity in it. Paying equity over time, paying back that equity over time, um, it kind of rounds everything out. Kind of makes everyone happy, as long as it doesn't put you into a situation where your cash flow is just way below what you need out of the property. It is just a super, super powerful tool.
Yep.
And I am seeing this more. I don't know about you, but I am
Yep.
seeing this more often. Um,
They're much more agreeable to do those things too.
yeah,
And just like a pro tip, so the seller believes they have $50,000 of equity in the property. Well, you can't give them $50,000 because then that's going to be, and let's just assume that then makes it 100% equity. Like I don't want to be in a house. So now we're going to be in a property that has zero equity,
right.
right? So you need to dial that back a little bit and always keep, like, we want at least a 10% buffer in the equity, preferably 20. So instead of $50,000, maybe you can give them 30, and then that keeps your equity position in there. Like you always need a buffer, whether it's an equity buffer, whether it's your monthly cash flow buffer, whether it's your reserve buffer. There always needs to be a buffer for when shit goes sideways,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, not only does there need to be a buffer, but if you don't buffer that enough, you just can't rely, because what you're trying to do essentially is you're trying to offset for future appreciation on the property.
Yep.
So you're saying, hey, I'll pay you this set amount over time, and what you're crossing your fingers that if it puts you into a kind of a lower equity situation, you're crossing your fingers that the property will actually appreciate in the future. And so what you're doing is you're buying that time to allow for that appreciation, and that is not always a safe bet. And that's going to depend upon where geographically where you're buying these properties, because obviously you're going to have better areas that appreciate faster, and you're going to have areas that don't appreciate at that rate. So there's a lot to weigh out there, but I do believe that you're correct. There needs to be whatever you're trying to have the seller carry back for you needs to provide a little bit of insurance. You can't give them if they're 50K,
100% equity.
give
Yeah.
them 50K, because now you're at 100% equity. If you had to sell it, you might actually have to come
Yeah,
to
you're in trouble.
cash.
Yeah.
So the offer then, maybe we just do like a quick little rundown on a $200,000 house. So if you have a $200,000 house that the seller has paid down 50K on, but they're asking for 50K as their quote walk-in money, well, you're now at $200,000, whether that entire amount is financed or not. If you wanted to sell that the very next day, you're not going to make a dime on it. Not to mention, you're not going to have that built-in security and built-in kind of I'll call it an insurance policy, but you're not going to have that. You're not going to have that buffer. And so, what you have to do in that situation is you have to figure out, hey, am I in a good area? Is do we have a trend of appreciation in this area? If so, what is the highest LTV or combined LTV in this case uh, what is the highest combined LTV that I will accept? And that might be, that might be 90%, that might be 80%. And then you just have to adjust. Um, and and the way I like to put this is, if we're looking at what's for sale here and what is the negotiation, what's for sale is that equity. And so you want to build the terms, um, in that second note or that seller carryback. They're going to help you be successful later down the road.
And also too, you always, you can negotiate that down, because you're taking, like you said, most of the time someone's willing to do a subject to letting it doing a subject to deal because they're in arrears. Like, not all the time, but a lot of the time there's some reason, right? There's some financial reason for this. So you're already taking responsibility for the underlying subject to loan. You're already going to make it current for them, which has instantaneously improved their credit.
Mm-hmm.
Them, not you. So you're giving value, you're bringing value to the deal in many other ways. So it would not be unreasonable to say, well, $50,000 means 100% equity. I can give you 30 and still keep some equity there. And oh, by the way, don't forget that there are all these other things that I'm doing there to offset the other $20,000 that you want. Like, I'm paying your $18,000 of arrears, remember, and your credit improves instantly the next day.
Yeah, I think I would pull that just right off the top. I think any arrears comes right before there's any negotiation.
Yep.
It's, you want 50K. Well, guess what? You're $10,000 behind in your
Yep.
payment. That right there is the very first thing I would pull out of that, in those terms of that carryback, um, and then start the negotiations.
Yep.
Um, I do want to. So I guess what I kind of want to bring up a little bit is, let's say that your seller doesn't want to take back a note. They don't want to be paid over time.
Mm-hmm.
So what are we going to do? And what are we going to do there? This is where, and by the way, I've said this before. I have never, ever had a an investor or these are kind of small time investors. I have never had one of my private money lenders turn down this deal ever. And the way this plays out is, let's say, for instance, like I just said, the seller, they don't want to take back a note. They want to be done with it. They're over it. They want this house gone. They want, they're willing to do the subject to deal, but they need their cash. What I like to do in this situation is I will reach out to my private lenders, because you're not going to find a hard money lender. You're not going to find an institutional
Mm-hmm.
lender that is willing to do something like this. This has to come from a private lender. So what I'll say is, hey, Mr. Private Lender, I've got this deal that I need some cash to pay for the arrears. I need some cash to pay the closing, some of the closing costs on this. If you provide that cash to me, here's what I will do for you. I will secure your loan on this property. Uh, I will secure your loan with this property,
Yep.
and then what I'll do is I'll make you an equity partner in this deal. So not only is my private lender getting terms, they're getting payments on what they lend to me. They've also now got equity in the deal, and that can be whatever you negotiate. 10% equity. I've done it up to 30% equity in a deal, and I have never ever had a private lender turn me down for that type of situation, because now obviously they're making money several different ways. They're making money on the note that I have given them. They're making, generally, the way I set this up is monthly cash flow. So if since they own equity in the property, they're entitled to, that monthly, their portion, that 10 to 30% of the cash flow every month. So they're getting paid two ways there. And then also they're looking at the appreciation potential, future appreciation. That when I sell that property, they're going to be paid 10 to 30% of the profits that come off of that property.
Yep.
It's
That's a
a,
big equity share.
it is,
And
it is, yeah,
most private lenders too, just by the way, they'd be fine just doing the note and taking payments on it. Maybe they don't want the note for 15 years, but we like, I call it the car loan version, like 5, 6, or 7 years, you
yeah,
could pay that, you could just pay them off on a note and not make them an equity partner too. But you're right, the sweeter the deal, the better. But doing something like that is all about the cash flow, which
yeah,
goes back to what we talked about last week, is you need to know your numbers. It's all about the cash flow. So what you're saying is, if the seller doesn't want payments over time, you can just substitute another investor, another private lender in for the seller and do the same deal. Maybe you give them an equity position, maybe you don't, but you're just subbing one spot in for another, and you now have, right? This is my favorite disposition. You now have zero out of pocket
yes,
because you brought the other lender in there, or the seller was going to carry it back for you. Or maybe you still did. Maybe you did the arrears thing, but now if you're bringing a private lender, like, yeah, have them bring in all the money so you have no money out of pocket.
right.
Yeah.
That's my favorite model, by the way. I just, I have a, it makes me cringe to think of leaving any large sum of money into a deal. It just makes me, that's just money that is tied up forever. And, you know, uh, I got to live. So, um, this is one of my favorite models, favorite ways to do it. And like you said, it's just got to make sense. You've got to really pencil this out and make sure that your cash flow is adequate while you're paying on this second note as well. So it's just got to make sense. I
Can,
will tell
can,
you the great thing about this setup as well, and you can do this with the seller if the seller carries back that note, is that this can all be managed through note servicing, where it sounds complicated. It sounds like, well, I mean, I've got a private lender. If I give them equity, I have an equity payment. I give him a portion of the income. If he's got a note, well, guess what? I got to pay him on his note. Uh, but all of this can be managed through a really good loan servicing company, and you
yeah,
don't even see it. You just get a check every month. So, uh, so that would be a solution to that. I know it does sound complicated um, to the person that's to the investor who's trying to get this deal done. Doesn't sound complicated to the private lender, by the way. It
yes,
sounds very, very good to them. So,
yes,
yeah, it's just another really creative way to get things done. And like I said,
yeah,
I have done that so many times, and literally just like what you're saying, $0 out of pocket. I've put in my time and my energy, my effort to getting the deal done, and I am adequately rewarded.
yes. You're
Uh,
the deal architect.
yes,
Can I do a quick so this is the shameless plug for the name, and so, like, you can learn how to do that if you partner with us. And oh, by the way, we fund those entry fees for people.
that's
That's
right.
like that's like our kind of niche, our niche funding. Like, we do that, and actually we've had several requests just this week for that kind of niche funding. So we like to fill that gap, right? Fill the void, so they speak. So you partner with us. That's what you see up on the screen. It's a good spot to it's a good place to be, right? Zero out of pocket in the deal. Can I just toss out a little quick coaching call yesterday?
Yeah,
So you just brought just this kind of scenario. So there's a very nice property that seems to it will roughly cash flow using our free sub-2 calculator, by the way. That was where all these calculations came from. Will cash flow about $830 a month, but he has to be in it at 265. That's the number. He's got to be in it at 265. Gonna sell it. Gonna contract for deed it to an end buyer at 300. Right. Those are the numbers that get that $800 a month. It was a 3% mortgage, 3.25% mortgage or something like that.
and I
That
don't.
had that had a modification down to 2.25 or two. was a whole point down for 3 years.
Yep.
Okay,
Well,
so that's even better, right? So now you're talking about, so now this cash flow is sitting there, but there's a real estate agent involved who wants to get paid 3.5%. Okay, whatever. And then the seller wants some walking away money. But at 265, that number to be in, there's only about 5K between both of them for that. So the question is will they take the 5K and do the deal? Or does he need some more walking away money? So we just talked about this yesterday. Carry back a note, have the seller carry back a note and pay $300 a month of your cash flow. Are you okay with $500 a month cash flow for a period of 3 or 4 years, however you set the note up, for a period of 3 or 4 years to pay $10,000 back to the notes? And by the way, if you do that, just say, okay, I'll pay you $300 a month until paid. That's a 0% note you just created.
that's the ticket right there, and I
That's
know.
a 0% note you just created.
Yeah.
So,
And I actually told him the exact same thing.
yep,
So I know who you're talking about. We have two separate coaching calls every week. Ken takes one, I take one. I told him the exact same thing.
yep.
And the benefit to that is, well, this is an owner occupied home, so they're when they sell and it's under, I think it's still 500K, right, for capital gains. I think it's still
Uh,
500K.
yeah, two combined, yes, or 250 individually to 500 combined, yeah.
So so you have let's put this into perspective. You have a loan or a note at 0%. So you're only paying they're only paying off the note. They're because the interest on that note is not tax free. The interest that you make off of that loan is going to be taxed. And so by setting up those terms so that uh, and this is exactly what you told him, by setting up a 0% seller carryback, that seller is not subject to tax on that property at all, because they're not earning interest on it. It's just a set amount that they're paying at.
Yep. Principal only payments.
Yeah. Yep. Principal only.
Yep. So we'll see if he can bring that deal home. I'll be curious to find that out
Yeah.
next week. But that was that was a good one, or potentially a good one. So
Yeah.
and he even brought up he even said, so then I'm listening to the numbers yesterday and I'm thinking to myself, well, I think you could probably push that a bit more. And then he pulled out the classic Mr. Coffman, pigs get fed, hogs get slaughtered line.
That's right. That's right.
So I was like,
I
fair
live
enough.
by that.
$835, that's pretty good. I mean, fair enough.
That is so ingrained in my mind. Sometimes I slip up. Sometimes, admittedly, sometimes I slip up, but it is. I just really think it's a really good kind of philosophy to live by. I just and nobody likes to be taken to the bank, or nobody likes to have a shirt ripped off. So, um, and as we've said in the last podcast, I like to speed to me is just as important as earnings, if not more. Getting a property disposed is it's just relieving. I don't have the weight of having a number one. If it's a vacant property, I don't have the weight of a vacant property. I have to sit around and stress about it. So anyway, enough of the philosophizing.
It's all good. Let's just tie it back together for today then too. So we've been talking about specifically sub two again. Again, you have to cover your assets. You need to understand sub two deals. Shameless plug number two, the last one for the day of our sub two documents package. You can see there on the screen. That is a bargain price for all the cover your asset documents that are in that package, by the way. So just toss that out there as well. And we started off by talking about the entry fee and the components of the non-negotiable, which is usually loan related, that sub two loan related, and then everything else is pretty much negotiable. And make sure that you know what is comprised in these entry fees, because some people list, some people don't. So just be aware. We like to fund entry fees for people, by the way. So just you can find us. You can find us. You can message us. You can do all kinds of things to reach out to us if need be. And then we took that. So if there's a large equity position in a property, we talked about doing the hybrid deal, specifically seller carryback in the subset. Although we also mentioned there's other ways to skin that. You can substitute out the seller and put in a private investor and do the same loan, right? You can accomplish the same carryback that you're trying to do. It doesn't have to be the seller; it could be a private investor. So very
which,
good.
by the way, we do as well.
Yep,
Yeah. So,
all day, every day.
all right. Well, I feel like that was a lot to ingest, but so if you watch this, maybe go back, and if you're confused, go back and rewind and watch it again. But
Yeah, or just stop thinking about it and
just do
become
it.
a deal partner. I mean, it's like nothing happens without action, brother.
That's the thing about this is maybe it's something that we need to kind of highlight. It's definitely a point when somebody asks me about it, but you know you, you can learn how to do all this stuff with very very little money out of pocket. I mean, as far as the deals are concerned, many times we've put people into properties with nothing out of pocket. I mean, it's not rare at all. We do it all the time. Now we do have our, you are going to pay for the program, but um, from that point on, it's very very likely that you're going to be able to reap the same benefits that we just talked about. Zero out of pocket, uh, earn while you learn type of thing. So it's a really good deal. It's a really good program.
Yep.
But that's all I've got. Anything else?
Nope. With that, we'll say have another great week, and we'll be back at it next Friday, 11 a.m.
All right.